It is the end of the third day of quarterfinals here at Worlds. I'm joined by Rekkles from Fnatic, who is an up-and-coming AD carry who's just trying to make it on the big screen. Rekkles, you guys, that game was so one-sided. Or that match was so one-sided. Other than maybe that really strange first game, did you guys expect that?
I mean, we expected a lot of things going into this game against EDG, but we didn't expect the things they did in game one. Yeah. So we had to adapt on site. Even once we saw the draft, we didn't expect the triple TP, right? So it wasn't until the loading screen started and we were without coach when we had to adapt. Yeah. And I think we handled it pretty good, honestly. We made sure that we didn't skirmish too much and focused on getting ourselves to a team fight. And then we had one of these roll over them comps, where we just kill one guy and then we kill all 5 guys with a lot of AoE. So I feel like we had quite a good idea going into game one, and they also had one idea, but I feel like ours, we just played ours better basically, because I didn't feel like they got enough, early game, which they should have. So we were quite comfortably taking game one, I feel like, and then we tried something in game two that we've been practicing the last couple of weeks because of red side being stuck with having to ban Gangplank and Mordekaiser. We tried to go away from that and see what they would do about it. And I feel like that game, the game was paused at 20 minutes, right? So you couldn't really see what we wanted to accomplish with our comp, which might be a good thing, right? Because now going into semifinals, we still have cards to show. We didn't really show everything that we had in the game against EDG today. So I feel like we kind of just steamrolled from game one, honestly. And they didn't they brought something totally new in game one, so it couldn't be worse in game three, right? So we just we just played our game, I feel like, and they didn't have anything to come with about it.
Do you feel like it was almost a good thing that the second game had that pause, because not only do you still get to have the potential to bring out that strategy again, but now your opponents have to freak out and be what were they going to do? What was the solution?
I mean, I think it's a great thing. Even the fact that we went 3-0 today, there's bad things about it, such as at least in comparison to the game against Origin, when we played the summer finals, we learned how to adapt in between games that we were losing, and how to deal with so much pressure, especially in a 2-2 situation when you're playing that fifth game that everything matters, in comparison to what we had today, where we were just comfortably taking the series, right? So there's bad things about the series being 3-0 and us not being able to show so much stuff, because we don't get to try things that we want to try, and we don't put ourselves in a situation where we can evolve as a team and as a player. But at the same time, as you said, we didn't really show anything today, right? So we still have a lot of cards to show in the semifinals or even potentially the finals. So I guess in the end it's not a bad thing, right? We can just keep practicing what we've been practicing, and then maybe KT or KOO are not quite sure where to put us, And that's about it.
Were you surprised at all when they picked Mordekaiser first? Excuse me, because people expect, I think, the Gangplank ban or pick, since that counters more, generally speaking.
I'm not quite sure. We've been practicing it in scrims, obviously. We didn't randomly pull it out today. And most of the teams are actually picking Mordekaiser. Okay. And I'm not sure if that's just because Mordekaiser brings a different element than any other carry in the game. Yeah. Because Gangplank still someone can do Gangplank's jobs worse, but no one can do Mordekaiser's jobs worse, if that makes sense. So perhaps they just felt we wouldn't be able to deal with Mordekaiser because it's just it creates such a different game. So far, at least in our experience, people have been picking Mordekaiser. But I agree, Gangplank to a certain extent counters Mordekaiser. But at the same time, Mordekaiser is just incredibly strong, So we just give and take, kind of. We just gave one really strong and took one really strong, and then tried to neutralize the game on a higher level, if that makes sense, So we were kind of just not necessarily trying around, but we were trying something that might positively give us something in the future, right? Because if you don't have to ban Gangplank and Mordekaiser every game on red side, then that creates opportunities for you as a team to play different games on red side. So we were kind of just trying if it actually worked on a stage, and I feel to a certain extent it did, and we didn't even have to show our the whole strategy behind our comp. So I'm not complaining at all, actually.
After that first game, or during the first game rather, there was a very mixed reaction among the community and on Twitter and all this stuff, because some people were saying this is the most entertaining game I've seen at Worlds. I thought it was really funny because there were moments where the camera would be top lane and something big would happen, and then it would switch bot, and then like there'd be a TP into another place. A lot of the other reactions were like, Riot has completely ruined the design of their game, like nerf TP, like this is terrible. What is your take on that game in particular? Do you think that was a bad game, or that like Riot's design is just too wonky and like that's a game that maybe shouldn't exist? Or do you think that style of play and like seeing so much TP and that kind of thing is very interesting and fun?
How I would see it is, I would see it as a strategy, you know? There's a lot of different strategies you can use. Like we have our roll over them comp, go for team fight, and they have theirs like, we want to skirmish at all the times, team comp, and then there's like the Mordekaiser comp, and then the Gangplank comp. So they're, like for me, I just see it as a different strategy. I'm not quite sure like what they were exactly looking for, because I didn't see them like fully use their kits to their strength. Because after all, they had 3 TPs, but there were only so much like, there's only so much you can actually get with three TPs, right? And it shows so clearly what you want to do in the game, you know. Your game plan is literally just, we want to get ahead early or mid game. If not, we're gonna have less summoners in the team fights, and then we gain an advantage, right? So their game plan kind of just gave us our game plan, you know, in the end. So for me, I don't see it as like a bad thing, that this is like something that happens. I just see it as like another strategy that people might use. But of course, it's for a player at least, it's not the most enjoyable game to play, because it's just like, yeah, you cannot do anything basically, because there's so many TPs, you know. But on a spectator point of view, perhaps it's one of the most entertaining games, as you said, because there's so much action going on at all times. I think we just played our game, you know. Even if they had their like kind of strategy that we haven't seen before, we still tried to play our game, and I feel like we did so pretty well actually, and managed to shut down their triple TP by just going team fights constantly and forcing objectives.
Do you have a preference for KT or KOO?
I actually think KT and KOO are on equally good. Like we've been streaming both the past week, or before as well, in the group stages. So we have like an idea on how they play, and I feel like they're kind of similar in like in strengths, if you were just to put it on a percentage scale. I don't think they're SKT level, which might be a good thing for us, you know. But I still think they are like, where they are today, they deserve to be here, you know. They're really good teams with 5 great players, and it's definitely not going to be an easy game, especially since the Korean teams play quite different from the Chinese teams do. They might pull up more of a team coordinated strategy, because I feel like the Chinese teams sometimes struggle with playing together, and I'm not sure if that's because of the communication, like faltering, since they don't speak like the proper English or the proper same language together, which is something the Koreans do. So perhaps the Koreans bring out something more like team coordinated. I'm not quite sure. But definitely both KT and KOO are great teams, and I don't think we should ever take those teams lightly. It should be at least as tough as today, if not tougher. So I'm just excited that we made it, honestly. It's going to be super cool to play a semifinal of Worlds. It's like the moment of my life, you know, so I just want to enjoy it as much as possible, and I look forward to going to Bristol.
So I'm getting a sign that we have to wrap up on time. So I'm going to ask you 3 questions really quickly, and you can go really quickly. Okay. First one is, are you guys making it to the finals?
Hope so.
Okay. Second one is, your hair's a little different now than at groups. Any reason why?
I just like experimenting.
Okay. I like experimenting. That's good. Anything you want to say to any of the fans out there?
Hello.
Very good. Thank you so much for the interview. Really excited to see you guys play next week in Brussels, and congratulations on the win. For everyone else, you can check out the rest of our coverage of all things Worlds at GameSpot.com/LOL.